This morning, it gives me great pleasure to announce that the project, once known as the One Tablet Per Child, which we have been also calling ICT in the Classroom project, that I recently held a update meeting with the committee, which was established quite some time ago, and has been working on this project, especially seeing that we have secured the funds to be able to carry out this project. So I'd like to update the public. The initiative, as it is currently known among stakeholders and the general public, is One Tablet Per Child, or ICT in the Classroom. Although this name is quite catchy and is globally recognized, it is misleading for the following reasons. Misinterpretation of the project. Many persons believe that the project aims to give every school-going child on St. Martin a tablet that they can take home. This is an misunderstanding. It is also believed that every child will be assigned a tablet in school. This is not the case, as the project aims to promote 21st century thinking, which includes collaboration. Another misleading thought is that the project is just about tablets. The project does not only focus on tablets, but integrating the necessary ICT devices as well as training in the classroom, dependent on the levels, ages, development, and capabilities of the students. So utilizing IT in the best manner possible to gain further knowledge in ICT, but also to open up education for our students, keep our teachers and educators up to date in all the latest trends. To update on the project, the team has proposed the name iStep, Inspiring Students with Technology in Education project. I'll repeat, iStep, small I, capital STEP, Inspiring Students with Technology in Education project. The action plan of the iStep committee, starting with the short term, is that for 2016-2017, they have completed the action plan. They are going to be assessing, so an assessment on the ICT skills for management and teaching staff of all public schools, which will be done in the month of October. Other activities regarding the purchase of soft and hardware will take place from now, September to December, so that is preparation of the terms of reference, etc. To 16. Organization of ICT and didactical training for management and teachers, which will also take place from September to December 2016. So that's a short-term plan for the rest of 2016. And by then, also I can inform the general public that the implementation will start within the public schools in 2 classrooms per school, except the Prince William Alexander School, which will get a total implementation. So we are aiming to equip our school with the special needs learners, as we believe that IT in the classroom, ICT in the classroom, with this iStep, will be a greater source for teachers in aiding our special learners to be able to individualize education, learning, teaching, etc. So the project will be implemented across the board in the Prince William Alexander School, and for the first year, 2017, in 2 classrooms, one in Cycle 1 and one in Cycle 2 of each of the other public schools. So that's the launch of the new name of the project, iStep. Just recently, on Friday and Monday past, the sports department, upon the request of my person, was able to execute much needed repairs to the lights at the sports facilities in St. Peter's and in Middle Region. I would like to clarify that sports facilities that fall where each sports facility falls, because there's been some discussion in the public, oh, why only now? I must indicate that the sports facility or the basketball court at St. Peter's is the property long lease of the Youth Council, which manages the St. Peter's or Rupert Maynard Community Council, Community Center. The court in Middle Region is private property, which was donated to have this court realized, and it remains in the hands of the owners. It is not government's property. The Youth Council receives a subsidy through the Youth Department, which covers maintenance, management of the center, insurance, and a minimal amount for electricity and water. As such, they are the ones actually responsible for maintenance. We understand that this is a challenge, and therefore, from time to time, government has stepped in and assisted, as we have over the weekend. So the ones that are private, there are actually several. John Cooper is not of government's property either. The one in Middle Region, and most of the others are in government responsibility. The budget for maintenance of sports facilities has been mainly allocated to the National Sports Institute. However, we were still able to utilize some of those funds that we would normally transfer to them to be able to execute the needed repairs. Also brought to our attention was the property in the Dutch Quarter area, close to the Martin Luther King School, that would also fall within government long lease land belonging to government, or that one I wasn't able to ascertain whether, oh yes, it is government long lease land. So the sports department is also looking at the replacement of bulbs at that facility. We do understand that with the shortage of funds and the tightness of our budget, that we do not always react in a timely manner, but we encourage the general public to inform the sports department, especially when it pertains to the government properties, that they be maintained properly with the funds that we have. So I just wanted to update the general public on that. We are looking now at the other facilities as well, to be able to ascertain how many we can actually get done within this 2016 budget year. And with that, I hope to have informed you sufficiently and await further questions. Thank you.
On Monday, the development contract for the new General Hospital was signed, and in my opinion, this helps to really secure progress that's been made in terms of a new hospital for the country, one that's clearly very much needed. This also allows us now for the turnkey developer to begin the design process. And I would like to recognize that, you know, getting to this milestone has been a collaborative effort. There's so many different people that have been involved in this, in particular the Council of Ministers, our coalition partners, VSA, the Ministry of VSA, including obviously the staff, and much of the work that's been laid in preparation for this is work that the ministry has been doing over the years in terms of building up the background information to make the decisions based on facts and information. So there is definitely continuity within government. So the ministry, the cabinet, in particular Jim Rosen, who's done a lot for me in terms of helping to move this project along. The SMMC, the board, the specialists, the staff, the management, you know, in particular, they've waited a long time. They've been through a number of different start and stops for the hospital, and I think that finally they feel that this is going to become a reality. And for them, I think they deserve to have a good new hospital to work in. And of course, to SEDV, who really has helped to spearhead this effort, including the board, the management, and staff as well, of course. I'd like to take a minute to load up a video. I realize this is a little bit different, so I'm sorry for the media that's here. We don't have the screens working, but it's a sort of a flyby animation of the new hospital. So just take a minute to let that to run. In the new hospital, there's going to be an additional wing. This also includes a lot of extra parking. You'll see that. It also is going to include a heliport for emergency evacuations. The new hospital will include 6 new specialties: a neurology department, orthopedics department, neurology, ophthalmology, hematology, and pulmonology. 4 state-of-the-art operating theaters with limited heart intervention lab, as well as a dedicated dialysis department with 6 chairs with 30 chairs with the possibility to increase up to 40 chairs. So again, hear that clearly, there is a dialysis department in the new hospital. Also, provisions for telemedicine, which will allow us to use modern technologies to help to diagnose people that are here. Using telemedicine allows them to consult with specialists in other places in the world. 110 beds, and each of the rooms will have either 1 bed or 2 beds. So this is a big change from where we are now. Some of the rooms have multiple beds in it, and we see people mixing from all different ages. It will have 6 dedicated ICU rooms, including a coronary care room, and up-to-date equipment, including an MRI scan and cath lab. So I would like to also explain a little bit about the financing. The contract that was signed still has a financing clause in it. We wanted to secure the progress that's been made, and we also wanted to continue with the timeline that we had laid out. Keep in mind that originally this contract was supposed to be signed at the end of August, but due to ongoing contract negotiations, the signing was a little bit delayed. But we want to continue with the timeline, we want to continue with the progress. So as we move forward, what we're looking at splitting the financing over 3 partners through SZV, APS, and a commercial local bank. We already have secured letters of intent from SZV and from APS, so there's still some due diligence that needs to carry forward, but all of them have been obviously interested in investing in the community. We've met with a number of local banks, and the feedback has been tremendous. The feedback has been, we've seen various plans come to us in the past. This is the best we've ever seen it. The business plan is solid, the plan of approach is solid, and their interest in financing, I would say, is at a very high level. Again, when we spoke with the commercial banks, we explained to them that ultimately our goal would still be to secure financing via Holland, because the interest rates are the lowest, the term is the longest, anticipated would save the hospital operationally between $5 to $6 million annually. So when we spoke to the banks and said we'd like you to make provision for the event that if we could secure financing via Holland, that we would be able to pay out the loan without any substantial penalties. And again, the feedback has been tremendous because they recognize the need for the country for a new hospital, and I think that being community-minded, they're very willing to work along. So we're very optimistic that actually on very short term we will be able to finalize the financing package as well. But there is one slight, let's call it a hiccup. We did receive a letter from Van Epps and Kunneman from their client VAMED, where they've filed an injunction in order to try and stop the process. And while I call it a hiccup, I should actually be more clear. It's probably more of a nuisance than anything, because we've gone through the process and we've made sure that all the I's have been dotted and all the T's crossed. As a matter of fact, my apologies to the media. The reason that I didn't invite you on Monday, because really up to the last minute we were working on finalizing documents, and even there was still a possibility that we wouldn't be able to finalize everything in time. So really we've been working day and night to try and get this over the finish line. And again, with the reason that we want to secure the progress that's been made. We understand that elections are next Monday, and we want to make sure that what work has been done, the good work that's been done, is secured for the people, for the country, and so as much as possible, all along the way, every step that's been made, we've tried to secure that process, that progress as well. Now, I find it very unusual, other people commented the same, that as far as I can remember, this is the first time I've ever seen a losing bidder in a project resort to court to try and change the outcome of the bidding process. But I believe this is part of the open process, and I'm okay with that. But you know, when I review the timeline, when I look at things in a bigger picture, there are some very interesting observations or coincidences. And so I'm going to lay out just a little bit of the timeline that makes you go, In December, when I met with the board of SZV, that's December 2015, and that's when Dr. Petit was still chairman, I met and discussed about the project, and at that time, Dr. Petit was very much protecting the process or the project, the no-bid offer from VAMED. At the time said, you know, look, just bring in a couple consultants to verify the price. And I was adamant that the right way to go was an open and transparent process with a bidding process. In early 2016, Dr. Petit contracted Van Epps and Kunneman to write an advice. My understanding was somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 was spent getting an advice from Van Epps and Kunneman in terms of how SZV is operating, the functioning of the director, etc. As you know, not too long ago, Dr. Petit resigned as chairman of the board, found it very interesting that there were accusations made, but yet no calls for urgent meetings, etc., concerns about the health of the funds from SZV, but yet, in my opinion, he was in the best position to defend those funds, to defend SZV, but yet never said anything about that to me, instead resigned and then went to the prosecutor's office in order to, quote-unquote, protect his reputation. Then we begin with some of the nonsense about there's no dialysis center in the new hospital, trying to confuse the population. And now with the bidding outcome, we find that there's an injunction filed from Van Epps, who actually was already the legal counsel for SZV, which seems to be somewhat of a conflict of interests. So why do this now? And there are some who question, is it really just to delay the project so that it can be delayed past the elections with the hope that with a reshuffling of government or a reshuffling of ministers, that hopefully there's a possibility to go back to the no-bid process and the no-bid outcomes? Again, it's a question for those to ponder. It's a question that I have myself.
There were a number of things that I wanted to discuss, but since we are running out of time, the only announcement I would like to make is that the new government building will be opening on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. And when I say will be opening, we've made a promise that we would move in. We would complete the building and move in, and we are doing so. We are doing so by starting with the Council of Ministers. As you could see, those of you who may have visited the inside, those of you who have been to any office of any minister, you would realize that all computers have been disconnected, all the documents have been boxed and labeled. The move had to start actually last night. I'm not sure if it had started, but I know today, throughout the day, they will be moving computers, furniture, boxes with documents, and begin setting up the offices for the ministers and their support staff. The next to move would be the finance department downstairs, and then there is a moving plan for the other departments, facility, services, and personnel are also in the move very soon, all of them being part of the Ministry of General Affairs, and it will continue. There's a moving plan that will be put in place. All of it will not happen between now and Friday, of course. The only occupants of the building on Friday will be the Council of Ministers and their support staff, and gradually the move will continue. I won't say too much about it, as we will have addresses and announcements on Friday at 10 o'clock, but I just wanted to let the general public know that another promise that was made is a promise that was kept. On the telecommunication front, it just dawned on me the other day that I never did make the announcement, but that too is sort of, maybe you can say, a big announcement. Some time back there were concerns from the unions as to the sale of TLM, and I think I had made it abundantly clear that I had stopped that process, at least pull up the handbrakes on the part of the board and management at the time, when I told them that the decision to partner to look for a strategic partner was one that was taken many years ago, and it was one that government would actually need to revisit, as it was something that had taken way too long, so to speak. One of the discussions that had been ongoing for some while also was the coming together of UTS East Caribbean, which is the UTS operations based in St. Martin, and TALEM merging as one big, strong local telecommunication company. We know there are many complaints from users of telecommunication. The Prime Minister is one of them as well, that we have too many drop calls, that sometimes we can't get calls, we can't make calls, the connectivity. But what we also have had complaints about are the high rates, for instance, of internet that is charged by both providers on the island when we compare that to other providers on other islands, including on the French side. But we have to also look at what causes this. Why can internet, whether it's in Dominica or St. Kitts, whether it's in Aruba or in Curacao, be way cheaper than in St. Martin, and why the French side can offer cheaper internet connectivity for much more bytes, etc. But in the discussions that had been ongoing, finally, the shareholders of UTS East Caribbean has agreed for the two companies to hold discussions towards merging, towards partnering and merging, and in the agreement, UTS would have a minority share and TALEM would have 60% shares. So once that process, if it is completed, TALEM would have purchased or would have owned majority shares in the new company, which TALEM would have 60% shares and UTS would have only 40% shares. So it will be strengthening the local telecommunication company, and we would then move on from there and see if indeed it would be still necessary to bring in a bigger partner from outside, or whether TALEM, UTS as one company moving forward would be able to survive and offer St. Martin a better service than individually the both companies are offering right now, competing often against each other for a very small market, while if they pool their resources and know-how and manpower together. When we look at what UTS offers in Curacao compared to what we get here in St. Martin, when we look at the amount of megabytes that they provide the users on Curacao for way less money, we wonder, where that difference comes in. From the Corporate Governance Council, last week I have received the approval, a positive advice, not an approval, but a positive advice as for the three new members that we had put forward for vetting quite some time ago. And they have completed that process. Those are three members to be added to the board. So the board of TALEM will now be completed. We are not sure if we would be able to have the advice ready for the Council of Ministers tomorrow in connection with the moving and everything else. If that is not done tomorrow, the first order of the day when the Council of Ministers reconvene after election would be to finalize that process as well. For quite some time, we have had a board that was not complete, and that process will now be completed.
Several months ago, I made a promise, and I want to report that that promise has been kept. It was in connection with a meeting in Parliament in which there was legislation that had been presented by the previous government to increase number plate taxes. Yesterday, an agreement has been signed by the receiver of taxes, because I said I will not raise number plate taxes. I will instead go after the casinos, to force the casinos to pay instead of shifting the burden to the local population. And yesterday, based on the legislation that I handed to the receiver 4 or 5 weeks ago, the receiver took action, and 2 million guilders have been paid on those arrears. An agreement has been signed with them, which will bring about in October another 650,000 guilders going to be paid, and after that, monthly, 195,000 guilders. So, with this, it can be shown that if you remain focused, steadfast, because the process to get us to this point has not been easy. 3 times the documentation for this legislation to give the receiver the tools to collect these casino fees disappeared. Nevertheless, I was relentless and continued the process, and now we can see the benefits that if you go ahead and collect the taxes that are outstanding, there's no reason to take the easy way out like the previous government tried to do and go and raise taxes on the population instead of collecting the taxes from these casinos. There's one other issue that I'd like to raise, which normally I don't do, but I think it's something that is of a nature, given my age, that I got to address this morning. There are people out there who says I'm too old, and because I'm too old, I should be put to bed, put to sleep. Well, I want to apologize to all senior citizens on St. Martin, because the persons who have been saying this obviously have no respect for the people who have worked all their life, contributed to this community, contributed to this society, and now they've reached the senior citizen age. They're advocating that people of that age should be put to bed, should be put to sleep. I want all senior citizens in Martin to remember this when they go to the polls on September 26 and vote for a senior citizen who is showing everyone that old or not, we perform, we do our job, and still can do our job. Thank you very much.